Go ahead and mute your teams. There you go. All right, welcome everyone. My name is Nate. I'm Communications Specialist at UMFS, and we're excited to be bringing you week 2 of UMFS Live. This is a new endeavor. We're bringing some of our folks from around UMFS and our Child and Family Healing Center, which is our residential program here in Richmond. Thanks again for joining us. Last week we had Sarah B., who's the Administrative Services Manager at the Child and Family Healing Center. We had a great conversation, but unfortunately we had a learning curve. The video didn't save, so we weren't able to archive it. Sarah's been kind enough to agree to come back and join us at a later time. I am thrilled to be joined today by my guest, Dana. Dana, how are you today?
I'm doing well, Nate. How you doing?
I'm doing well. Dana is the Senior Manager of Residential Life at our Child and Family Healing Center, and I'm just so grateful. He and I were going back and forth trying to get our connection to work, and everything looks like it's a go. So let's get started, Dana. We're live here with a bunch of people logged in and saying hello. Dana, tell us, how long have you been at UMFS, and what brought you here?
I've been here a couple months short of 15 years. I relocated from California about 15 years ago, and I started working in Newport News, and I started looking for work in the area, in Richmond area, and I had a lot of people tell me that this was a great company to apply to, and I did, and I've been here ever since. I've been here, like I said, a couple months short of 15 years.
Well, we're so grateful that you've been with us that long, and you've been doing great work with the youth we serve, but also, you know, a leadership role with your team. Can you talk a little bit about your experience working with youth in a residential setting, and how has that impacted you?
I've been working in the field for about 20 years, and I've held many positions. Well, not recently, but within the last 8 years, I've been a part of management now. So I look at it two ways. When I am direct staff, it's just building that relationship with the kids, making that that connection for the time that they're there, and hopefully that you're making some type of impact on that child. The impact that the kids have on me is that's just so resilient from a lot of trauma events that took place in their life. And so, you know, a lot of times we look at, some people judge the kids by their behaviors. I look to look at their history, their trauma, and see what they can, what keeps them going, because if a child can do well, they will be successful. But if they can't, then they won't. And we have to try to figure out what the child's strengths are, what their passions are, and help them overcome the things that have been holding them back. I've always looked at and learned from UMFS to figure out what the why is. Do not react to the behavior, but figure out what's fueling the behavior so that we can help and impact their lives.
You know, that's great. You're talking about how we can impact them, but also how they impact us. And it leads me to my next question, because I had a chance to talk with you probably about 2 years ago now for a story that we wrote about the residential program, Child and Family Healing Center. You said something that stuck with me, and I realized that it's a huge part of our program here. You said, be curious, not furious. And I wonder if you can explain that concept to us.
It's terminology that comes from collaborative problem solving, and we like to be curious and not furious. I always give an example when I'm training, is that if a child throws a gallon of milk on the floor and the milk is everywhere, when I walk up to that situation, I'm not going to ask the child to clean that mess up, or you're going to do this. I'm going to try to figure out why he did it. And so at that particular time, I'm going to try to get that kid to engage with me. I'm going to come up very neutral and ask that kid, hey, you want to take a walk? I'm from my experience of having a relationship with that kid, I know what this kid's triggers are, and I also know that the relationship that I form with them, how to approach him when in times of crisis. So we might go outside and just shoot a couple basketballs, shoot a couple hoops and stuff like that, and then begin to talk about, hey, what's going on? We'll figure out that, hey, mom was supposed to call at 5 o'clock. It's now 5:30. And so, you know, we talk about that. And then we talk about, hey, well, I'll help you clean it up. And, you know, those how we get through problems. We don't just be furious. We make sure that we're always curious about what the problem is, because there's always an underlying problem. And until you dig deeper with the child, you're not going to find it out. The child has to be able to tell you.
And do you feel like when you're using that approach that you're really making that connection, because sometimes the youth just don't know how to verbalize how they're feeling?
I think so. I think when you're using your skills that you've learned, active listening, making sure that you are being attentive to the child, and making sure that it's not about a consequence or anything that's going to follow. It's just, I want to find out what really is wrong so we can address that. If the child didn't tell me mom didn't call at 5 o'clock and I wasn't aware of it, we easily can step into the office and give her a call. And maybe mom, it just slipped her mind, or she got really, really busy and was planning on calling at 6 o'clock. So it's just those things of having those crucial conversations, making sure that you're being attentive to what they're saying, and make sure that you keep drilling down. And what I mean by drilling down, when a kid gives you a cue or something, they might not all want to tell you right away what it is. Just keep on asking questions and keep on listening to the child. And most times they will, if the relationship is at a good place, they will let you know what is going on.
Yeah. That's such a great approach. And so, thinking a little bit more then about the relationships that you then have with staff and the culture we have here. When we were promoting this live episode this week, we used a photo of you and Tavis. Tavis is, longtime UMFS employee. You all have worked together in a lot of capacities. I think the photo of you and him was from maybe an employee appreciation ceremony. You're both celebrating. He's got his arms in the air. My point there is that I think that photo illustrates some of the teamwork and the sense of community that we have here at UMFS. Can you talk a little bit about that community, specifically about the team that works in residential and what makes them so special?
Sure. Since I've been here, I've been a part of like 3 separate teams: the direct care, the management, and then the administration team. And it all comes together as the same thing that we deal with the kids is relationships are building blocks. If we don't have those relationships with our co-workers, it's very, very hard to get through the type of work that we do. We try to correlate the same approach that we have with children as the same approach with staff and co-workers. You know what I mean? We always want to start with strengths. We always want to be curious, not furious. If somebody shows up to work late and you haven't been relieved because you had a bad day, it's be curious, not furious, because this person might have just had an accident before they got to work, or something else could have took place. We try to give grace to everybody. I think the biggest thing obvious to everyone is this pandemic that we are hopefully getting out of. It was a really big sense of team. There was no way that we would be able to get through it if we did not lean on each other. There were days that were just horrible, days that we were emotional, days that we were happy. But we had to rely on team, because if we didn't, we would not have gotten through it.
And I know, just as an employee of the organization from the outside of the residential program looking in, I admired so much, and I can speak for all of us, the work that residential was doing to keep those young people safe, not just from the virus, but from what was, what they were working through prior. And this was an unprecedented situation for the youth, for, as you outlined, the staff, for the organization. I mean, we know for the world, it might sound cliche, but that's what it was. And really a tremendous and remarkable job that you all did to keep the residents safe and the families engaged. It was just really remarkable. And so thinking of all those moving parts, not just in times of a pandemic, but really just in residential care in general, that comes with a lot of misconceptions in residential. How do you describe this work? How do you describe this work to your friends and your family?
I think that if we look at each family member or friends, that we all have